We're starting Siman Reish Samach Gimel, and it's a very important Siman. Deals with the halachas of lighting candles on Shabbos and Yontif. Even people who have very little affiliation sometimes light candles, even though they don't even keep Shabbos. It's a very special mitzvah for many reasons. Many tears have been shed by many great women during this mitzvah. Shabbos and Yontif. It's a lot to say, a lot to talk about it. There's one statement in particular which requires more understanding. The Torah, when he opens up the Siman, starts with this statement from the Gemara. Should be careful to make a nice candle. We're going to learn about oil versus wax and etc. The Rav Huna, here's the statement, because Rav Huna says, Haragil Baner. This is a direct quote out of a Gemara in Shabbos. Haragil Baner, Shabbos on Chav Gimel. Someone who's regular with a nair, with the candle, literally. Shabbos, of Shabbos, the Torah adds. Then the Torah adds L'hishtadel ba, to strive with it, Laso Isyafa, to do it well. Havayim Leiban and Talmidei Chachamim. You'll have children who will be Torah scholars. If you look up the Gemara, the language is Haragil B'ner Havayim Leitamidei Chachamim. If you're regular with the nair, you'll have scholars. Talmidei Chachamim, as children. It's unspecified by the Gemara which Ner are we talking about. Ner Chanukah, Ner Shabbos, Ner for Yom Tov. The obvious question is, what's the connection between the two? If you're careful with the Ner, then you'll have Talmidei Chachamim as children. Why? What is the shaychus between the two? A logical reason that explains this. Something else that we're going to need to discuss is why? How? We see that many people are in fact very careful with Ner Shabbos, Ner Chanukah, Ner Yontif, and still their children are certainly not Talmidei Chachamim. How then could we explain this statement in the Gemara? Some they try to make two wicks. One wick corresponds to Zachar, the positive mitzvahs of Shabbos, the active ones, and the other candle is for Shamar, the negative mitzvahs of Shabbos. People think that the two candles have to do with husband and wife. They don't. It's Zachar and Shamar. We'll see about the custom to add a candle by every single child. That has later sources. Kuti Maharich, others. We'll see. There's a lot of halachas to discuss by Ner Shabbos. Let's just start by means of an introduction try to work through this Piskei Tshuva over here. Quotes a few nice ideas. The Mishnah Brura is going to teach us that lighting a candle on Shabbos is oneg Shabbos. Surely means a pleasure of Shabbos. But the truth of the matter is it's also kavod Shabbos, honoring Shabbos. It's really both. So it's a trick question when you ask someone, is lighting their Shabbos kavod Shabbos or oneg Shabbos? It's both. The Prima Gadim in Siman Reish Samach Daled, which is a siman that deals with the type of substance that we use for the nair, oil versus wax, etc. Obviously, for those who aren't aware, oil is preferable. Olive oil, mitzvah muvchar. The Prima Gadim there says, quote, Hadlakas haner mechlala kavod va'onego. Lighting the nair on Shabbos is both kavod and oneg Shabbos. And the Rambam specifically writes in Hilchos Shabbos, Parak Lamed Halacha Hey, that you need to be mesakin beisam mevoid yoim mipnei kavod Shabbos. Fix your house while it's still day because of Kavod Shabbos via Ner Daluk v'Shulchan Aruch. And your Ner should be lit, your candle should be lit, and your table should be set. So it seems like according to the Rambam as well, there's this element of Kavod Shabbos attached to Ner Shabbos. So it's both Kavod and Oneg Shabbos in short. Rambam in another place seems to say it's both. It's also Oneg Shabbos. So it's Kavod and Oneg according to the Rambam. Because where we eat, that's Oneg Shabbos. So that we don't have to eat in the dark. Even in the fancy restaurants where they give you minimal electricity, you could still see something. But if the lights are totally off, you can't see nothing. Now, in other rooms of your house, the idea is the reason to light there, where you're not going to sleep, but you're going to be spending time in, is Shaloi Kashel Be'itzu Be'evin. Rashi in Shabbos says, and we're going to learn about this also when we learn, I mean, we already touched upon this in Hilchos Chanukah. You could reference that playlist over there. I think that was like Tuf Reish Ayin Zayin 676. I think it was 78. It might be Tuf Reish Ayin Ches. Tuf Reish Ayin Ches, it might have been. We discussed the hierarchy of if a person has minimal money. Baruch Hashem doesn't really apply nowadays with all the programs and everything, but if a person can't afford wine for Kiddush, challah, Ner Shabbos, Ner Chanukah, and food, which one comes first? So we discussed the hierarchy. Ner Shabbos is gonna come before the Kiddush and the Havdalah because Shalom Bayis we learned. Right? What does Shalom Bayis mean? How does lighting a candle increase the peace in the house? So we explained, because if it's going to be dark, people are going to be very upset. You're not going to know where to go. People are going to be. That's Shalom Bayis. So at the Sudo, so that you could see where you're eating at the meal, that's Oneg Shabbos. The rest of the house, that's Kavod Shabbos. That's honoring Shabbos. So we see that it has a dual focus. All right. That's one way how to reconcile this Rambam. Because the Rambam seems to be saying that it's Kavod and it's Oneg Shabbos. The answer is it depends which room you're talking about. It's one way how to answer something that could have perhaps been a contradiction in the Rambam. There's other answers. You can look at the Machazik Bracha, he says in the Chida, Os Aleph, the Pri Sadik, the Kuntra Shvitas Shabbos Osei, the Kilas Yaakov and Simin Chaf. I guess that's the Kilas Yaakov on Shabbos, Mesech Shabbos. The Kuntras Chanukah and Megillah, Simin Aleph, B'Shem the Briskerov, Shmir Shabbos Kilchas, Parak Mem Gimel Haravav, Sefer Ratz Kisvi, Chelik Al Simin Yud Beis, and other Rishonim as well. Some write that the reason for lighting Ner Shabbos is Oneg Shabbos. Some say it's covered. Rashi seems to indicate in the Gemara in Shabbos that it's covered. Seems like this is on Chafem and Beis Dibra Maskul Chova. Taisus over there seems to say it's Oneg Shabbos. So this is a major discussion over here. Which one it is? The Gemara says on Chav Gimel, though, the reason for lighting Ner Shabbos is Shalom Bayis. And here he quotes the Rashi. People are going to be in pain if they have to sit in the dark. It's not going to be a good environment over there. Then he quotes the Rambam, which is really, in fact, the Gemara that says Ner Shabbos comes first because of Shalom Bayis. Or some have the text Shalom bein ish ishta, peace between spouses. It's included in Kavanah on Shabbos. It's not a third reason. Like apparently it's applied from the Lavush. We should point out that the Ner Shabbos would not come before Challah. Challah comes first. The reason is because with the Challah you could do a lot of things. Number one, you have food. since on Shabbos. Number two, you can fill your obligation with Lechem Mishnah Hamotzi. Number three, you can use it for Kiddush. So you get a lot done with the challah. It's very powerful. The mitzvah of Ner Shabbos is one of 7 mitzvahs that are derabanan, that are rabbinic. Chinuch towards the end says we have benching. We have washing hands, Hal on Rosh Chodesh, Ner Shabbos, Ner Chanukah, Megillah says in Eruvin. Those are the 7 rabbinic mitzvahs.
Benching because Rishon.
Oh, excuse me, not benching. Sorry, birchas and enev mitzvahs, just brachas in general. Sorry. Yeah, thanks for the correction. So those are the 7. We have a tradition from the time of Moshe Rabbeinu.
Wow.
When he went to Har Sinai to light Ner Shabbos. So if you want to know where this comes from, comes back all the way to Har Sinai to light Ner Shabbos. The question we have to ask ourselves is, when did they start saying a bracha on Ner Shabbos? We learned this past week in Parsha on Masai. We discussed why there's no bracha that we make when we go into Israel. Why not? According to the Ramban, and there's a saga of Sefer Mitzvahs and Mitzvah Hay. It's a mitzvah even nowadays, the Araisa from the Torah of Yishuv Haaretz, to live in Israel. So we offered a few answers constantly. We don't say bracha on something constant, similar to Kibbut Avim. There was a rule over there we discussed back in Parshas Yisro. Other answers, we spoke out that it's from Rav Zilberstein, Leinu Shabeach over there. That really we are in Israel. We shouldn't be here. We're just here temporarily. So are we saying bracha back to where we already came from? We all belong here. We discussed a few days ago. At the end of the piece, he says, why didn't they say a bracha? Then according to that, the first time when they went in the time of Yoshua. The answer is they didn't have brachas back then. So we have to ask ourselves, when was the bracha established on Ner Shabbos?
What? According to Mandamar, it says that they were lighting candles by Moshe Rabbeinu. That wouldn't be one of the 7 mitzvahs the Rabbanim. What's he saying? It's just one in the bracha.
I could still be the rabbinic in nature.
Huh?
Could still be the Rabbanim.
Yeah, something back then we say is Tzavir Kabbalah is
Tzavir Kabbalah. It's just strong.
It's higher than
okay, but it's still officially branded as the Rabbanim. Question is, when did they start making the bracha on this? Something to think about. So this is a chova. This is an obligation placed upon everyone in the house. By the way, if you look over here, the Chassam Sofer quotes the Sefer Yereim, one of the Gedolei Rishonim, who says that this obligation to light Ner Shabbos is derabanan, is deraisa, from the Torah.
Wow.
Yep.
So how does he?
It's the obligation.
That's one of the 7.
Okay, we have to look up the tshuva. I didn't look up any of these things in this file. But if you were interested in preparing like an hour shiur, 2-hour shiur on this topic, this is where you go. This footnote, this is a 2-hour shiur in the Rambam. How to reconcile the Rambam when he says it's covered owning Shabbos, and you look up those 7 svarim that he quoted. I mean, those svarim are going to talk. They're going to say a lot of information, more than 4 little lines over here. So if the obligation is placed upon everyone in the family, then I have a question. Don't we need to be there? Shulchan Shodim K'moisa. But by Ner Chanukah, we don't say that.
There's a special Indian.
Perhaps, maybe. Shulchan Shodim K'moisa is interesting because by Kiddush, we don't say that. You have to be in the room. Okay, there's a din of Kiddush al Makom Suda, but kind of mitzvah in your body. But usually we say Shomei Koni, you need to hear it. You have to be there to hear the Megillah. So Something interesting is going on over here that we have to discuss. The mitzvah, as we know, is given over to women, though. She is our messenger. And the main reason is because she's involved with house matters, house-related matters and activities. And the chiddush is over here that we don't need to hear it from her. Even if we didn't hear it from her, we would still fulfill our obligation. But you have to be under the same roof. If spouses are away from each other, we're going to learn. The other spouse has to light. If they're under the same roof, then they don't need to. There's going to be a massive discussion about should we be around during when women light candles or not. Another reason, by the way, why women light is because she extinguished the candle of the world, so to say. Adam Harishon, by causing him to sin. That's just to fix that sin. We'll come back to that also. Some customs of certain places is that the husband should hear her light candles and answer Amen. But it's just a mere custom. Halachically, you don't need to. If you look later on in footnotes 109 and 201 over here, he's actually going to say on the contrary, some say that you shouldn't be around because that's when she's accepting Shabbos and you're not accepting Shabbos yet. So you have total opposite customs what to do when she lights. All of them, of course, are legitimate, whatever your custom is. The rabbis, they teach us the importance of this mitzvah and the great amount of reward that awaits those who perform it properly. It comes even before wine for Kiddush. However, nowadays, and we're going to get to this, that we have electricity and we don't really need the light that's getting produced from the Ner Shabbos. Wine for Kiddush would come before Ner Shabbos, if you could only afford one. Nevertheless, there's still a full-fledged obligation to light Shabbos candles. Even if the house is already light. Because this is honoring Shabbos. Just like when you go to a fancy type of meal, you have candles, it adds to the ambiance. So too over here, it adds to the ambiance, so to say. It's an honor. When we light a candle, we have to realize we're not just lighting it. It has to be lit specifically for the reasons of Shabbos, and therefore, if it was already lit the entire day, but not in honor of Shabbos, even if it continues being lit and a flame into Shabbos, one would not fulfill his obligation. One would actually be required to extinguish it and relight it in that scenario. These are some important ideas that we're discussing over here. We're going to learn about making a bracha on electric lights if you don't have actual fire, if you're not allowed to use fire, the differences between an incandescent bulb and not. We already discussed that when we learned near Hanukkah, right? Oh, Havdalah, excuse me. That's where we came by it. Havdalah, we already discussed that. So we're going to come back to that idea. We're going to discuss that.
The girl who made it on the incandescent to show that.
Chaim Moser. We're going to come back to that. We're going to come back to all that. That's something to chew on over there. One other point. I mean, there's a lot of points to say about it, but we're going to have one session, or at least part of a session, where we're going to try to properly understand. Just to pose the question again. What do the rabbis mean? What is their intention when they say, Haragil b'ner havayin eloi bonim talmidei chachamim? If you're careful to light Ner Shabbos, you will have children who will become Torah scholars. First of all, many people do it and they don't see the results. Second of all, why is that so? What is like the measure for measure over here? The midah can I get midah? We have to discuss also, the Mishnah in Shabbos tells us, women could, chas v'shalom, die during childbirth for three things. Nida chala halakas haner. They're not careful with nida chala and lighting the ner. obvious question is, what is the
Okay.
right
Just staying there.
the halakas in there? But what is the importance of these three mitzvahs? Right. So we understand nida that only applies to women, obviously. Right. We understand. So the common denominator between chala and halakas ner is that they're both coming to fix the sin of Adam Arishon. Like we learned when we learned Simon Reish and Beis 242. Right. Now she caused sin. Chava caused sin because she right. And Adam Rishon was considered the Isa, the dough of the world, so to say, because the way that we learned that Medrash is he was kneaded from the ground, he was made from Ofrim in Adama, dirt from the ground. She messed up that dough. Now she's got to pay up her dough for it. Right? So she's got to fix that by making the dough for Shabbos. Similarly, when it comes to Ner Shabbos, she extinguished Nero Shel Olam. Adam was considered the candle of the world. His light on a spiritual way as well covered all areas of the world. She extinguished it. Now she has to fix that, bringing more light into the room. Something interesting about light. It could be so dark, but a little bit of light you could see so much. It's a special idea. So we have to come back to that, and then we're gonna continue going through these halachas. We're gonna be sitting on these. We're gonna be learning them properly. We're gonna get a good understanding because a lot of people don't have a proper understanding of these halachas. So that's what we're gonna do. It's Hashem will continue tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Have a wonderful day.
Sure.